So if you are watching on Facebook, I can't see your comments because I can't have it open. And also it's for internet management reasons, but I am at my fancy internet office space, not in my office yet, but in the building. Wow, it has been quite a week. I did want to talk about a couple key things, namely the FTX situation is a way bigger deal than it might look. So at surface level, what FTX was doing was illegal. So when you put your money into a bank, FTX kind of acted like a bank. You would deposit your money into FTX. And then if you wanted to, you could take some of that money and go swap it for a crypto token. And a lot of people left their money in FTX. Now, you would think, like, if you go and log into your balance and you see, oh, I have $500, that you think that money is there. But what a lot of these exchanges do, and FTX did as well, is they lend that money out to other things. That's how banks make money, right? You go deposit your money at Wells Fargo, the money doesn't just sit there, because then how does the bank make money? So they take your money and they lend it out for interest. Now, banks in the US have pretty strict rules about lending. They're not supposed to lend all the money that they have. They're supposed to keep some. We have FDIC insurance in case there is a problem. And they are not supposed to take like crazy risks with your money. They're not supposed to go invest in some like Nigerian prince who discovered a gold mine. And so that's why, and that wasn't always the case. Like back in the 20s when the sort of Great Depression started and there was this run on the banks, not all the money was there and people kind of freaked out. That was sort of part of the origin of the FDIC. Now, crypto exchanges like FTX were operating as an unsecured, unregulated bank. Now, they might have said, we have reserves, we're holding the money that you have, but they weren't. SBF, the founder guy, he had created many companies, namely a sister company called Alameda, which was a hedge fund. Hedge funds essentially take money and they invest it into startups, high risk type things. Usually the returns can be great. Often only like very wealthy people who have some money that they could lose invest in hedge funds, because while the returns can be great, the odds of losing your money are also very great. So Alameda created this hedge fund. Now, what's amazing about it is that the woman who ran Alameda was this young girl who dated SBF, she's a good at math, I guess, but she has zero experience in finance and trading and doesn't really know the world of finance, how that world works. But her dad worked at MIT with Gary Gensler, who was the head of the SEC. And this girl was given all of this money to invest with SBF. They had no idea what they were doing. Now, SBF, if you've ever watched an interview with him, he's an awkward geek. And I don't mean that to sound like rude, even though it probably is kind of rude. But generally, when you are the founder of $1 billion bank, you have to go to meet with other people in the world of finance, whether those are Congress people or Wall Street people or whatever. If you're going to do well in that world, you kind of have to act like a professional grown-up. And he just doesn't. He's just awkward, a mess. So it's sort of strange how of all of the crypto banks that started up, how is it that SBF rose to success what looked like overnight? Way faster than Coinbase, way faster than Binance. The company was started in 2019, and it was like he was a billionaire within a year. That's just not generally how startups work. It's just too, now I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but I think in probabilities, like the probability of a geeky kid who has no experience in finance creating a startup and becoming a billionaire within a year, statistically, the odds of that are extremely low. I could buy that he could be a millionaire in a year, no problem with that. But a billionaire, actually it was like more like 7 or 8 billion, I think he had at some point. That's a chunk of change. Now, the thing is that if you dig into how he got his starting money, there's also all these weird questions. So if you want to start an exchange, you need money to start it because you're going to be like this bank and you have to have a bunch of money in your bank, and then new people come in, they deposit their money, they're going to exchange for some other kind of token. So there has to be what they call liquidity. So you need a bunch. If you want to start a bank tomorrow, like you need a lot of money to have all of the assets that you want to sell to your customers. It's kind of like a store. If you want to start a Whole Foods tomorrow, even though customers are going to come in and pay for stuff, you have to go out and buy a whole lot of inventory, which you could kind of buy on credit. But if you're a new startup, like you can't have zero money and just all credit. No one's going to lend you that. All right. So in order for him to start FTX, he needed a bunch of cash. Where did the cash come from? And when he's been asked this, he said he made a lot of money doing arbitrage trading on Bitcoin. Now, what that means exactly is that we've seen that sometimes if you go to one exchange like Binance, the price of Bitcoin might be $10,000. If you went to another exchange like crypto.com, the price of Bitcoin might be $10,050. There's a $50 difference in the price. So what you could do is you could go to the one that's selling it cheaper, buy it, and then quickly go over to the one selling it for more and sell it, and you pocket the difference. That is called an arbitrage trade. It's taking advantage of the fact that different sort of stores on the blockchain will sell things at different prices. And this actually is a good thing, these arbitrage traders, because they help level out the prices so that they are kind of like the same everywhere. To make serious money at arbitrage trading, you need to start with serious money. Like if I had $100 and I went and bought some token and arbitrage traded it, I'm counting on the fact that there's fairly a modest difference. And for something like Bitcoin, which is the most highly valued crypto token, it's the one to be least likely to have a big percentage difference in arbitrage trading. So it doesn't really make a lot of sense that only a couple of years ago, he would have made serious money, hundreds, like $100 million Bitcoin arbitrage trading. If it were that easy, I would do it. We would all do it. It is not an easy way to make money. The arbitrage traders generally start out with a lot of money. Like if you had $1 million, you could probably make like $10,000 a month because you'd have a big pool to put in, buy, sell, and pocket the difference. So it's, and the people I have listened to who are far more knowledgeable about arbitrage trading than me have said that that's kind of a BS story. Like this kid came out of nowhere and all of a sudden was making serious money arbitrage trading on Bitcoin without any experience. Like, no, there's a lot of professional traders who don't even do that, who have lots more experience. So the question comes, did he lie? Did the money come from somewhere else? Who did the money come from? And this is where a lot of questions are coming into SBF. And it doesn't look at this point like he is a regular exchange. He is a front for someone else who has real money and wanted him to do a couple of particular things, like launder money. And that is another very handy dandy thing you can do with a crypto exchange. We could have Steph come in and she could deposit, 10,000 pounds into my exchange and park it in some kind of thing. And then Steph could have 2 accounts for all we know, and she could maybe lose money on one trade. Oh, well, but all of a sudden her second account makes a bunch of money and she can pull it out. And maybe that second account is actually some kind of political fundraising thing, or maybe it's some kind of organized crime. Who knows? The paper trail with crypto blockchain gets all sorts of messed up in a central exchange. And so they were using FTX to launder money. This is what it looks like at this point, that the foreign aid that was going to Ukraine was getting deposited into FTX, and it was getting mixed up and then sent to a variety of different places, including political campaigns and other sorts of things that are totally illegal for taxpayer money to be spent on. And it was a really amazing racket because who was going to notice this guy SBF? He's like the darling of crypto. This is the other thing that is a flag that I don't know if I really realized at the time. Crypto is supposed to be this threat to the establishment, right? Like it's supposed to be this threat to banking. But the mainstream media, like Fortune magazine, the New York Times, have done nothing but write these glowing articles about how SBF is this amazingly awesome dude. And what he has done is he's using his exchange to make tons of money that he's going to turn around and give to charity. So he's like painted as this selfless altruist. He's actually operating under this particular framework called effective altruism. I don't know if you watch my YouTube channel, but I did a YouTube video on it yesterday and a Twitter thread. It is not what it seems to be. I mean, altruism just sounds so awesome, right? But what these effective altruists are doing is they're basically stealing money and saying that the causes we're giving this money to make that okay. The ends justifies the means. And they're really arrogant. And most of the causes that they are stealing money to fund are actually depopulation agendas. And that sometimes comes across as like conspiratorial, but I actually went to the effective altruism like main website where it's created by a bunch of academics out of Oxford in England. And literally the first sentence on their website talks about how in the past, people who have tried to do good, they were ineffective. And it links, it's the first sentence on their own website links to an article about depopulation efforts in the 70s in India, where the Rockefeller Foundation, the Ford Foundation sterilized a whole lot of men in India in an effort to reduce the population. And it doesn't disparage this effort. What it just says is that it wasn't effective. So they had the right idea, but they screwed up in delivery. So we're going to tackle these problems from a different angle. So this is not conjecture on my part that they have these nefarious goals. They literally say it in the first sentence on their website. And you go in, they're mainly focused on taking money from wealthy nations and giving it to poor nations to pay for medical, pharmaceutical type treatments, which again, might sound really good, but what if they sterilize people? Like, can't really ethically do that without someone's permission, and it's just gross in a lot of ways, in my opinion. They're also really focused on tackling what could happen in like 3 generations with artificial intelligence and making sure that we don't wake up in a Terminator scenario where AI has taken over the world. So they have justified, Sam Bankman-Fried justified stealing money from his paying clients so that he could fight the war against artificial intelligence 3 generations from now, which is insane. Like this is, I think, how they kind of rationalized this stuff and how you could look somebody in the eye, steal their money and have no sense of guilt about it, is that these EA people have this arrogance that they are better equipped to make decisions about what to do with money than any of us are. And that is sort of, if you've studied anything about the Great Reset and some of the very horrible parts of that agenda, and I've often wondered, like, how can they like have a discussion with each other about this and not feel like they're evil, horrible people? They have this belief that people now need to be sacrificed to save humanity in the long run, where they have really no basis on which to know what's going to happen in 100 years. Like 100 years ago, the world was really different. So the fact that this 25-year-old geek from MIT knows what's going to happen 100 years from now and is going to steal our money to spend that more wisely than he thinks we could is insane. So, and a lot of this has come out kind of very mainstream. This effective altruism thing is no secret. It is, Sam Bankman-Fried has been very public that this effective altruism thing is his jam, as is the guy who runs Ethereum named Vitalik Buterin. So it's not a good look for crypto. And the thing too is that this might get painted as a broad brush, like Sam Bankman-Fried is going to take down crypto, or crypto's dead, or something like that. Just realize that we've have a couple of criminals who have been stealing money, and that has nothing to do with the blockchain technology or how these technological solutions can solve problems in businesses. If you come in as a shady character, you can steal from people in any industry. They just happen to figure out a really good way to do it using crypto. So I think, though, that unfortunately it's going to probably slow down investment in new businesses in the blockchain space for a while, because people are just going to be scared, rightfully so, that they don't want to get caught up with another shady criminal. It will be very interesting to see if criminal charges are filed against SBF. He flat out broke many laws. And if he is protected, that's just going to be gross. I mean, he's in the league of Bernie Madoff with a flat out Ponzi scheme where he stole money and said he was going to do something with it that he didn't do. Like, I don't think there's a gray area about what he did. I think the extent to which he did it and the extent of the lies will probably continue to be uncovered. Whether the girlfriend, Caroline Ellison, goes to jail too, we'll see. They have very deep political connections. And it will be interesting to see whether they get sacrificed so that everyone shuts up and stops digging into who is really behind him, or whether they figure out a way to delay it until people forget and move on. So the crypto news world is completely consumed with this FTX thing. The other thing that's kind of crazy is that this kid, SBF, I call him a kid, he's very young when he got started in this. He had access to people in Congress. He met with Joe Biden. He's met with Gary Gensler's head of the SEC, people that it's very difficult to get meetings with, and people who more experienced people in finance and crypto could not get meetings with. And he's meeting with everybody. How did he get those meetings? Like, it brings up really good questions. And he also was behind some legislation that was essentially going to give him kind of a monopoly on a section of crypto that I'm not exactly sure what that section was, but that is very likely why Binance started the bank run that ultimately took down FTX. Because when you're in a small industry like crypto is relative to other industries, and you only have a couple of significant exchanges, Binance, Coinbase, FTX were the three largest ones, Crypto.com kind of. And if one of those guys goes and tries to screw over the other guys, just like the mob, you're one mob family and you try to screw over the other mob families, they're not just going to sit there and take it. They're going to fight back. And that's what Binance did, in my opinion. He was like, I'm not going to let you shut us out while you get some sort of preferential deal with the government. So I know you've done a whole lot of shady stuff. I kept my mouth shut, but I'm going to take you down. And if you watched out how it happened, FTX was taken down by CZ, who is the CEO of Binance, on Twitter in a period of 48 hours. It was a remarkable thing to watch. It reminded me a lot of Luna. And now it's kind of come out that FTX may have been behind the engineered takedown of Luna. There's a lot of not nice. I mean, this FBF guy is just a jerk and gross and evil. And if he was going around taking out businesses without any disregard, the irony is that he paints himself as some kind of altruist. So, which clearly, if you're screwing over people, I don't really consider that terribly altruistic, my take. So what does this mean for us and for crypto? Well, the number one lesson is please do not keep any funds on any exchange. That includes Coinbase, that includes Binance, that includes Crypto.com. Why? Well, as long as your funds are in there, if something were to happen, if somebody else decided to take out that exchange and that exchange has lent out a lot of money and they can't get that money back quickly, then what happens is there's a run on the bank and they run out and it goes insolvent. When a bank becomes insolvent, it means it has debts. It's borrowed money that it can't pay back. And in the case of banks too, they lend out money that was yours. Yeah. So when you are a depositor in a bank, you're lending that bank money. You might think I'm depositing it and keeping it safe, but like in terms of banking contracts, you are lending them your money. And in theory, they give it back to you with interest. It's like a savings account. And so a bank goes insolvent. If you have put your money in there, you've lent it to them and they went and spent it somewhere else and they can't pay you back, that's when they go insolvent. And that could happen with any exchange at any time because they do not have, and it could happen with any regular bank, but or if you are in the US banks are insured by the government. So if like something happened and Wells Fargo went down and I have $10,000 in Wells Fargo, the FDIC, which is a division of the US government, would cover it. There's an insurance policy on it up to a certain amount of money. There is no such insurance on crypto exchanges unless you have bought your own something insurance, which I don't think any of us have done. It doesn't mean that exchanges are bad. Exchanges are good to exchange things like a store, but you don't want to keep any of your money in an exchange. Because what happened like a year ago when everything was great, and what happened a year ago was that there was all the stimulus money being printed. PPP money was given out for these loans. People were getting checks. So there was constant like flow of money into these exchanges. So there was never a risk of a run. But then we had this problem that the prices started to tank. People had bills to pay. So people started to slowly cash out of their crypto because they needed the money for other stuff. And that kind of created this problem where if I'd lent out a lot of it and not very much money's coming in and too much money's going out, it creates this situation where you're eventually going to have this problem. And it could happen, if it happens slowly, it's not the end of the world, but you have like an emotional panic like happened with FTX. Everybody rushes to get their money out at once. Boom, there isn't enough money. So I will still use crypto.com. What I will do though, is I move money over from my bank. The minute it gets there, I get an email and I go and exchange it. In my case, I like XLM. So I will exchange it for XLM and I will move it somewhere else. If you wanted to hold it into dollars, the only stable coin I would recommend at this point is USDC. I would exchange it for USDC. I would move it to a wallet I control, which could be the Ria Trust wallet or a Nano Ledger or some other cold wallet. If you wanted to buy XRP, same thing. I would bring my money over to my central exchange. Excuse me, I would immediately swap it for what I want, and then I would move those digital assets to a wallet I control. I actually am of the impression that my crypto assets in my cold wallet are probably the safest place for me to store money. Even like my US bank, I know it's insured, but I don't know what would happen, to be honest, if every bank went under at the same time. That's never happened. You'd have to go through this process of getting your money back. I'm not trying to disparage the FDIC thing, but it could take a long time. I don't know. There's also this thing that I talked about this a while ago, but after the 2009 banking crisis, they changed the laws around bailouts in the US. And it used to be, well, it never really had happened, but in 2009, when a couple of these big banks made these reckless gambles and lost all of our money, the US government bailed them out. People were really mad that they got to be bailed out, where a lot of small businesses were left to fail. So as a response to that, they changed the law. And now instead of bailouts, they're going to have bail-ins. And this is definitely the case in Europe. They've already tested this in Cyprus. They've tested this in China. So if a bank in the US were to go insolvent, meaning it can't give you back your money because it spent it or lent it to somebody else, you might not get back your money. What you might get back is shares of a new bank that is created by the FDIC once they take over your bank. So let's say your bank is Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo goes under. The FDIC steps in. They take temporary control of Wells Fargo and they create a new entity and they issue shares of it, like stock options or stocks. I'm not sure exactly how it worked, but you'd get shares. And proportional to the amount of money you had in that bank account, you would get shares in this new thing, this new bank. Now, those shares are in theory worth something. They're like shares of a stock, but I have no idea if you have to vest them, which means you can't sell them for a period of time, or what other conditions would come with that. So you would get your money back, but it likely would be in a different form, and it's unclear. You could maybe get your money back in a central bank digital currency. Like there's all sorts of possibilities that could happen if a US bank collapsed. Do I think the likelihood of a US bank collapsing soon? I think that is low, but there have been quite a few people who have warned that that is a distinct possibility. Jim Rickards called this ICE 9 thing. We've talked about that before if you've been on these calls. It's not beyond the realm of possibility. So that's why my husband and I certainly have money in our US bank account, but I like the idea of having money that is separate from the banking system in a wallet that I control. I have a variety of assets. I don't have a lot of stable coins simply because they're kind of expensive to move, which is really dumb. I should have some stable coins in the wallet. Pax, not Pax, Kinesis. I have kept my money for now on Kinesis because I am under the impression they are not doing any lending. An exchange is only bad if they're lending. So how else does Kinesis make money if they're not lending? They're actually a gold and silver refiner. So we're buying their metal. They just created this blockchain crypto platform for people to buy their gold with crypto. So that to me is very different than a bank whose business model is to lend out their customers money. So for now, I'm not worried about Kinesis. I don't have like my life savings on there. They do have a wallet situation, I think, where you can move that out. So I probably should look into that. If you are using Kinesis and you do have a chunk of change on there, I would look into the wallet thing that they have where you could move it off to see if that's just a smarter decision. But any exchange that you are on that does lending, which absolutely includes Coinbase, any blockchain that offers staking, I would be careful because when they stake it, you can't get it back very quickly. So if you decided you wanted your money back, you're kind of in a tough spot.
Molly, can I just ask you about the Kinesis thing again? Sorry, I didn't quite understand it. So you were saying about the wallet. What do you mean?
So Kinesis is an exchange.
Mm-hmm.
They also, there's all these tabs on the left, and I haven't been in there in a couple of days, but you can move your Kinesis tokens off the exchange. Mm-hmm. And I think they have this option where they have their own wallet. But you could probably just move if you wanted to, I would see if like Cold Wallet or even Trust will accept those tokens. I'm confident you could probably move them off there if you wanted to.
Just the crypto. So obviously leave the gold in there.
Well, the gold is crypto. You have a digital asset that's representing the gold.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Now, if Kinesis were shady, which I don't think they are, what they could do is you buy this gold, right? And your gold is sitting in a vault without you knowing. They could lend out your gold to somebody for interest. And that's how, if they were a bank, that's how they would make money. But I don't think Kinesis is doing that because I think they're making money off the metal. Like they're not in lending. I'm going to go today. I'm going to see if I can figure out if there's a way to borrow money on Kinesis, then my tokens will be off there.
Okay. Yeah, that'll be interesting to see. And I think I did ask her the question specifically. Is the money, when you buy it, and she said it is yours, like it is directly correlated to gold that you can request anytime. But I suppose, like you say, that could be like a bank, isn't it?
Oh, you cut out for a second. I don't know if that was my fault or not.
Sorry. I did ask a question specifically, and she said that the gold directly correlates to what they've got in the safes. Like you own that piece of gold that is physically there.
I don't have any
That is-
doubt that you
Mhm.
bought gold on Kinesis and that you own that gold. Did you hear me okay? I don't know if that's, I can't have internet problems again. It's the
No,
good.
Steph is frozen.
Okay,
To me, sorry. I'm going to close some stuff down.
no problem.
Let me know what you.
Steph, maybe if you put it in the chat because you keep freezing. So Molly, Kinesis, in your opinion, would still be the best place to buy gold and silver? I've just bought crypto so far. I haven't bought any gold or silver yet.
Yeah, my views have not changed on Kinesis. I think that Kinesis is still a great place to buy gold and silver, unless you wanted to physically hold it. If you did, I would find a place locally and just go buy it in person. But I like the idea of having blockchain gold and silver because then I can get this credit card. It's very similar to Glint. I like with Kinesis that you can also buy other assets like XDC and XRP. You could move though. Now, once you buy the gold, you get a token like KAU, or whatever the gold symbol is. You now own this token that represents gold that it's connected to. So you own the gold, but you're sort of like proof of that is owning this digital asset. You could move that digital asset off to a wallet, I think. I know you can move the XRP off because I have moved the XRP off. I haven't tried to move the gold and silver off because I didn't really think it was necessary, because I am under the impression, and I might be wrong. If I am wrong, please let me know, that they're not lending anything out. There's no risk, in my opinion, if they're not lending the gold. How could they lose it if it's not being lent? So I think Kinesis is good. I like gold and silver. I continue to buy gold and silver there. I buy sort of small amounts on a schedule. Other people recently have approached me randomly about other things, and Kinesis has come up. I've just met more people that are fans of Kinesis. One guy even wrote this long thread that he sent me. He thinks that Kinesis has their own sort of house token that he thinks could be like a reserve currency one day. I was like, wow, that's a bit much, but there's a lot of interest in the BRICS nations to remonetize gold and tie actual currencies back to gold, which is one of the reasons we're all holding gold and silver, is we think it's going to have a higher value in the future because it's going to play a different role. Kinesis seems as legit to me as anyone other than Noble Gold and Glint, but Noble Gold doesn't do anything with blockchain. So Steph, yeah, I'm pretty confident that Kinesis is good at this point. I'll continue to monitor that. I did not expect FTX to go down. That surprised me. I also didn't know all of the shady stuff they were into. So there's nothing, it's not beyond realm of possibility that Kinesis and Coinbase and everyone's shady at this point. I'm no longer gonna like hold anyone on a pedestal, but anyway. So in terms of other stuff, well, in terms of investing, I don't think anybody in their right mind would launch a new venture at this point. The crypto markets are not very active, meaning there's no liquidity. I personally would not be doing any trading in this environment. The only people I know who are trading are very experienced professional traders who know how to read charts, and they lose more, they lose a lot and they win some. Hopefully they net out positive, but that is not an environment that I want to trade in, and I wouldn't recommend anyone even less experienced than me in trading to play around in this market. We used to talk about on this call whether we're going to see like a major financial collapse. I still think that is very likely because it will be the perfect way for them to reset the financial system and move over to the blockchain. There was sort of two working theories months ago. One was that it would kind of happen right after the midterms, when everybody sort of who was hoping to get reelected could get reelected, and these changes would happen between now and the end of the year. We're not going to see as many changes in Congress as I think a lot of people thought. So I don't think much is going to change between what is happening in the US government now and in January. So it is still likely that between now and the end of the year, we could see a major collapse. It feels less likely to me than it did before. Jim Rickards still thinks that something's going to happen in December, as far as I know, but a lot of people have been predicting these dates about all these sort of terrible things are going to happen on this date. And then that date comes and goes and nothing has happened. So it is also possible that it could be another like year before any major collapse. Now, the thing that kind of gets me on that is that if you look at every other previous collapse, like the 2008 collapse and the 1929 like stock market collapse, in order for something to collapse, it has to be like high. Like if you're going to burst a bubble, the bubble has to be big. And right now, things are down, way down. There is no euphoria. There's no bubble to burst. People are very guarded. I think people are still spending money, but there is not a perception right now that the stock market or a real estate market or any market is overvalued and people are spending money like it's going to go out of business. So it seems weird to me that there would be a collapse now, because it's like falling off the step, but you're already on the bottom step, like falling down the stairs, but you're at the bottom step already, like not very far to fall. Now, granted, if the stock markets went to zero, I mean, that would just devastate a lot of parts of life. But you'd have to have this mass sell-off. And that would mean that all of the like 401ks would sell off. And why would they do that? So I think what sucks is I kind of wanted something to happen so we could just get it over with and move on. What I think sucks is that it might drag out for a while. So we're playing a long game here with some of these investments, even with gold and silver, let alone things like XRP. And what would I think be perfect for the people who don't want us in those assets is to basically run out the clock until we all just kind of give up and run out of hopium and run out of energy for it. That would suck. That would mean that next year will be a very depressing year, one of maybe minimal growth. Now, what's interesting about this year is that I used to think we had kind of a free market. We absolutely do not. Whenever the Federal Reserve changes interest rates, it dictates the direction of the market. So if rates are low, the market's booming. If rates are high, the market's down. So you've kind of given global power to this entity who just simply decides interest rates. The other thing that seems like a big deal is that when the government is, or when the Fed is actually buying the government debt and taking that money and funneling it into the population, times are good. So the market's like, if there's free money coming in, the markets are up. If there's no free money, the markets are down. It's not really that much more complicated. And right now we have no free money. And the jury is out about how long that will last. It could be a while. And there's nothing that anybody but the Fed can do about that. Now, some people, this guy, Tom Luongo, who I'm actually in his little like membership thing, he thinks that the Fed is trying to prevent us from going through the Great Reset, which would be nice of them to prevent that. And that it's this level of stagnation is far better than what the Great Reset people had planned. So there's that theory. That would be, none of us want to go into this feudalism dystopia, so I'm not advocating for that. I guess my point is that there's a lot of different viewpoints about what's good lies ahead right now. There seems to be tremendous uncertainty. A lot of it hinges on what the Fed decides to do. If the Fed pivots, which they may, So I don't think it's a high likelihood, but they may, and they start to lower rates and everybody feels like the free money's back, it's going to pump up all the prices and it's going to look like everything's great. And you'll realize it's all an illusion. Nothing really changed except this fake free money started pumping in and started artificially increasing these prices. If that happens, I will absolutely get in, make some money and get out. It's a market where I think we should all be very cautious in and do not assume it will last at all. And the question comes, well, when I sell out, what do I sell into? What's the most safe place to store your money? And that continues to be something for debate. I still believe gold, silver, and some of those cryptos are the best place to hold money. Steph, what you got?
I'm hoping you can hear me now. The video's gone off. Is that better?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, good. So obviously all the crypto is your plan to hold on to that long, and then if prices do increase, take your profit, some of the profit out, but keep the rest in there?
Correct. So you know how dollar cost averaging is like when you're buying on a schedule?
Yeah.
There's also a concept called dollar cost selling,
Right.
where as the prices go up, you take out profits along the way.
Okay.
So that you don't stress about trying to find the perfect time to sell.
Okay.
So for me with XRP, like I have a lot of XRP at this point. And so right now XRP is like 30 cents. Like when XRP gets to like $2, I'm going to sell a bunch. That might sound like crazy to go from where it is now. I'll sell some. And then when it gets to $10, I'll sell some more. Now I'm never going to sell all of my XRP, simply because if it's true that XRP is going to go to like $10,000, that would be life-changing money for me if I had a bunch of that.
I hope so.
Yeah. And there's still the reasons why I thought that it would go to that have not changed.
Yeah.
Ripple, the company, is doing very well. They're one of the only blockchain companies that's making money. And there's never been any tech problems with Ripple. They're having a conference in London this week, and all of these like senior people at MasterCard and various banks are attending and speaking. None of the FTX stuff is connected with Ripple at all, or XRP. All the kind of shady stuff that goes on, it's not connected. Now, I still want to caveat that it's possible that Ripple are not good guys. I think they have good technology and the banks like them. They are all in with that World Economic Forum. They're on the, they go to the events. They are part of, they build software that is for central bank digital currencies. So I think it's a good investment, but I don't go around bragging that I think Ripple is this awesome company that I want to work for. There's just be aware of that. Now, I would love to be wrong, and I would love for them to be good guys, and they're there to help make sure the bad guys don't do bad things. Like that would be awesome, because I've listened to enough of them speak that they're likable people. They're, you listen to somebody like Klaus Schwab speak, he's just a jerk and he's condescending and arrogant. No part of listening to someone like him makes me think, oh, I wonder if he's really a good guy underneath. Like it's not even an option. Where the Ripple people, they're smart and funny, and like they seem like normal people, not like these insane, Nazis like Klaus Schwab type.
Yeah.
But now this morning I bought some PolySign, which is private equity in a Ripple sister company that handles institutional custody. And what that means is that if let's say you were a bank and you wanted your customers to buy crypto, you're not going to keep all their crypto on some little plastic cold wallet, right? Where are you going to keep your client's crypto so that it's secure? Cold wallets are really for people like us. They're not for institutional investors. And so PolySign is creating like what is the equivalent of like cold wallets for institutional investors. I doubt there'll be a physical device. It'll be some sort of like virtual safe that on the blockchain. So if the big money is going to ever move to blockchain, then, which I think it probably will, there needs to be real security solutions. And they call this custody in banking and crypto. And PolySign is an institutional custody provider.
How did you manage to invest in it, Molly? Because I remember last time we talked, it wasn't possible, I don't think, for
Yeah,
people like us.
it is on Link2, which is where I bought my Ripple. So Link2, LINQTO, they sell private equity. You have to be an accredited investor. So this is where I remember I had that letter that my accountant wrote.
Yes.
That's was initially went to Link2, and then I moved over to my 401. It was so many steps for me. I almost stopped talking about it because it was annoying. I created several other accounts to try to buy through Link2 with my retirement account. Finally, I found this one called IRA Club, and I could move my money over, and then they essentially buy the private equity like for me. It took a long time, and I bought the Ripple, I guess, like a month or two ago, in October, I think. And this morning I bought, actually, it was just like 2 hours ago that I bought the PolySign. Now I don't own it yet because, again, I placed my order, but then the IRA Club has to go and like pay for it. So I haven't said anything really publicly. I don't want to jinx it, like until it's mine, it's not really mine. But
Yeah.
yes, you can through Link2 buy PolySign. They only had a small amount, but they do it like if you have a Link2 account, they will email it. They emailed me saying, hey, we're gonna have some PolySign next week. I was like, oh, cool. And I actually replied back, like I was so excited that the guy told me, and he messaged me this morning and said, hey, we actually put some up early because it was supposed to go live at like 11 o'clock my time. And at like 9:30, I got an email, hey, it's up now if you want to go buy it. I was like, oh, damn. Because last time when they had it on Link2, they like listed it at like a certain time and it was gone within 30 seconds. So I wasn't even too confident that I was going to get it. But then when he sent me the email to get it early, I was like, hell yeah. So we'll see. And it was cheap. I think it was like, I bought like $10,000 worth, and it was like $3 a share. So we'll see if it becomes a high value share thing, that would be pretty cool. We'll see. Just one of those things though. I mean, it could be 2 years before that goes anywhere. I mean, that's the deal with private equity. And this was IRA money that I can't use. I'm not old enough to access my IRA. So for me, it was safer than having it sit in cash or in stock. So Link2 is where you can get it. Did you ever figure out, Steph, if you could get the accredited investor thing?
I just actually, whilst we were talking, I was like, I need to email Kyle. So I just literally emailed him.
Oh, right. Yeah. So you're going to have Kyle do it. Yeah. I mean, just Kyle write the letter.
Yeah, I think that'll be the easiest way. Yeah, my accountant's okay, but he's not great. So I'll see what he comes back with. It'll be good to get it.
And honestly, I think Link2 just, they weren't like hard asses with me about it. They just want to know that, they want someone else to take on the responsibility so they can be like, hey, well, Steph said she was accredited. What are we going to accuse her of lying? So.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Is there anything else you guys want to talk about or ask me about?
I know we've talked before about there being a possible like Black Swan event, or what I'm always really interested, because I know that you follow all this information and you're in a lot of groups. Like, as you say, it doesn't really make a lot of sense that the markets are going down because there is no bubble to burst. So I just wondered what kind of theories there are that people are talking about that might be why this is happening.
Yeah, so Black Swan events, the part of the definition of a Black Swan event is that it's unexpected. Yeah. So if it's something we're all thinking is going to happen, it's not a Black Swan event. So there's that. But I think the one great possibility is war, that the Davos crowd really wants war with Russia and China. They keep poking the bear antagonizing things. This morning, there was this reported bomb that went off in Poland that the initial reports were trying to claim that Russia accidentally bombed Poland. Poland's a NATO country. That means all the NATO countries have to fight back, and boom, we're in World War III. Turns out it was not as it appears. Maybe it was an accident, or it was Ukraine's own missile that they bought from Russia that they bombed on themselves. So like, who knows what the deal is? But that is a possibility that if the West was brought into this war, then the money printers would turn back on, because you would need money to pay for war stuff. And war can be good for certain industries and pump up the economy. What's so gross is that, you kind of try to figure out why did certain groups of people want to push war? Like, all these innocent people are going to die. The people who make the decisions about war are never the ones who die. It's always innocent civilians and soldiers who are often very young guys who just get killed. Who would support that? And I was actually watching this movie that specifically addressed it and said, banks love war because after the war, they make all this money issuing loans to rebuild.
Yeah.
And so the Ukraine, if it's devastated, think about how much money is going to be loaned to rebuild Ukraine, and these banks are going to make a shitload of money off of that. Like, that's just horrible. That you would want war so that you could make money rebuilding the stuff you destroy. So it's not, I would not assume that we're not going to have a more escalated war. That is one thing. Now, the World Economic Forum likes to warn us about their plans, because a lot of them are flat out evil, and part of their evil religion is that they believe in karma, and that if they don't warn us about what they're going to do, then it sort of messes with their karma somehow. So they've warned us about a cyber attack. So that could be a black swan event, Steph, where the power grid goes out globally. Just think about how much that would mess up so many things.
Yeah.
It's like hard to even imagine. I mean, if you ever lived in a place where the power went out for like a couple of days or even a week, that's different than airplanes that are in the air and like, other
Hospitals and all that stuff. Yeah.
Like, I mean, this would mean no generators work, the banking system, it's like Walking Dead type thing where like there's nothing anywhere. So that is another black swan event that the World Economic Forum has warned about. They also warned about some kind of like freeze thing where everything could get so cold, like the financial system freezes, which is weird to me because a lot of the world is not in a cold place. Like, I don't know how you're going to freeze stuff in Africa. So I don't know if that was a localized, regionalized thing, maybe for Northern Europe or Canada or something. But that, I think, Steph, the most widely talked about scenario that I've heard is about something electronic or internet related that would affect the grid.
Yeah.
Which is why for 2 years, there's sort of this prepper crowd that's always warning to stockpile food and stockpile some stuff just in case you need to feed yourself for like a week or two or longer. Why would you need that? It's because there's no power anywhere. None of us we would be out of food. Like the stores would be out of food very quickly because they won't get their deliveries. Nobody could buy stuff. Very few people have cash. So if you only use debit cards, how are you going to barter with people? That would still, even though it's been hypothesized, I don't think any of us are even prepared for that. And I don't know how you would prepare, because just because I'm prepared doesn't mean that, everybody would have to be prepared for that to not be a huge significant deal. And
yeah, my friend was saying that, like, they've got land and they grow their own food, but they were like, actually, if that actually happened, there's going to be a lot of desperate people out there. So,
right. Yeah. So if you are a prepper, I would keep your mouth shut about it, because all the other people would go to your house and try to say, hey, give me your stuff. It would just create absolute chaos and lawlessness. But I think that also fits into this whole concept of the Great Reset. If you think about what that means literally, it has it could be that they're going to turn off the entire financial system for a little while, and then they reboot it like a computer. And now all of a sudden we have blockchain money. I mean, it kind of fits into this narrative like, oh, look what happened. Some bad terrorists took out the grid. But you know what? We just so happen to be working on this other system. It was not quite ready yet, but you know what? I think we're just going to have to go ahead and use it now. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Completely. And people would be desperate. They'll be begging for it, won't they?
Right.
So
and that, I think I wrote a Twitter thread on this. It got actually kind of challenged quite a bit, but it was like, what conditions would have to happen for us to eagerly accept a central bank digital currency, even if it had all these like programmable elements? Well, there's not a lot I would say no to if my choice was starve or take our shady money. I'll take your shady money, and people with kids would absolutely take the shady money if it means their kids survive. So we would all have a very different stance on central bank digital currencies if our choices were very limited. And right now they're not. You can say, screw you, bank. Screw you, central bank. I don't want your money. I'm going to grow my own food. I'm going to, do whatever, barter with my neighbor. Well, if we're all on the brink of starvation and somebody comes along and says, hey, would you like some food? You just have to pay for it with this new money. I don't think there'd be any resistance at all.
no, I agree.
I do think, though, I was kind of getting a little bit black pilled recently. If you're not familiar with that expression, it just sort of means where you're like, don't have a very optimistic view of the future. And one thing just to remember, if anybody watching this either on Zoom or Facebook, humans have an incredible ability to adapt. And when people are put into very difficult situations, you'd be amazed at how creative and resilient people are. And back in the 20s in the US, like alcohol was illegal, but that didn't mean people stopped doing what they wanted to do. They just created a black market. So if we woke up one day and all of a sudden now we have central bank digital currencies and there is this incredibly oppressive thing saying you can't buy X, Y, or Z, I wouldn't put it beyond humans to just figure out a way around it, and that we still will be able to, I think people will create a black market for stuff that we want to buy, whether that's gas or whether that's meat or whether, it's some kind of thing that the government's decided you can't have. People are resilient and creative. And I think that's what the Great Reset agenda, the arrogance of that assumes that all people will just comply and then stay compliant forever.
Mm.
I think we would all accept it if we needed to when we're starving, but I know a great many people like myself, we would sit around figuring out a way to get around this system as quickly as possible. And so it wouldn't last very long. Even if you've watched the Terminator movies where, the machines take over the world and it looks very dark and dystopian, people don't give up. They're still trying to figure out a way to, survive and overcome these obstacles. So even if we all go through a really dark time, it doesn't mean that it's over. Like, you can still find ways around their dumb dystopian rules. And the thing about these, like, they're colonizers. I mean, this group of people pushing the Great Reset, they have a history of colonizing parts of the world to steal all their resources. The thing about them is that they lose a lot. I mean, that's why they don't have any colonies anymore. And that's why nobody wants to be a part of their world, and why there's a lot of disgust at them. Like, they don't win all the time. Otherwise, we would all still be in a feudalistic society where we're all serfs and they're all in charge. Like, they don't win. And even though they're trying to push us back into feudalism because it benefits them, there's absolutely zero guarantee that they will win. Because if you look at their track record, their colonies generally at some point say, you know what, screw you. We don't want to be a part of your colony system because it sucks for us. So I don't think there's any reason why all of us would willingly decide to become peasants again and just say, oh, well, I guess they won. No, it's not going to work like that. That's my long-term optimism is that even if we get kicked and fall down for a while, we can I hope humanity will still get up and say, you know what, we're not particularly interested in being serfs in your feudalistic agenda, because yeah, that sucks for us. So screw you.
I feel optimistic too. I think there'll always be a group of people who find a way around the rules.
Right. And all of us, I think, are far more skilled. And these arrogant colonizers, they have no skills. All they did was inherit money. They're not good at anything. I mean, I think it's fun to make fun of Prince Charles, King Charles, that hysterical video that I still watch and laugh where that voiceover is on it. You know, what's he good at?
Yeah.
If he had to go and, you know, grow his own food, is he going to figure out how to do that? No, but we could.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's just an example because he's kind of a well-known part of this sort of like aristocracy, but all the sort of other aristocrats who kind of grew up as these very wealthy landowners who don't know how to do anything, if they lose their ability to take advantage of other people, how are they going to adapt? They don't know how to do anything.
Nope. No, you're right.
So, I mean, we have friends, like I have friends who are electricians and plumbers and like people know how to build houses. Like they don't have any of those kind of friends.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting.
So I think that if you have kids too, like I'm trying to help my son learn more practical skills as well, because knowing how to do stuff, I think will become increasingly important. And I think in the education system in the last couple of decades, it was a focus on just these professional skills, like how to design beautiful PowerPoint slides. Well, we might go through a period where having more practical skills is helpful, like doing stuff, fixing stuff, kind of thing.
Yep, I agree. Well, thank you. That's really helpful.
Sure. Yeah. So as far as investing, I would not be making any big investments right now. Please don't keep any money on central exchanges for crypto. I still think gold, silver, and XRP are good long-term holds, but we might need to be patient. So I'd have some good hobbies that can occupy your mind in the meantime.
Thank you, Molly.
All right. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
See you later. Bye, Rachel.